The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms.
Hello and welcome to the Oracle of Luna. Merry meet. Today we have a special guest. We have Isidora Forrest. She is the author and ISIS prophetess. She's the author of ISIS Magic, Cultivating a Relationship with the Goddess of 10,000 Names. Welcome, Isidora.
Hi, Bridget. Nice to meet you, at least virtually. And I'm really happy to be here with you and your listeners.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really excited. So I'm just going to jump right in. I do want to mention to the listeners that to stick around towards the end because Isidora is going to do a short 5-minute meditation and we'll end with that. So really excited for that. And I'll just jump right in. So how are you doing today, Isidora?
I'm doing pretty good. It's weird weather for October in Portland, I must say, though.
Oh, really? A lot
It's
of
sunny, windy, and rather warm. It should be
Oh.
raining buckets by now.
Yeah. Let's just jump right in here. I wanted to ask you, how did your spiritual journey and devotion to goddess Isis begin?
So I originally came to the idea of goddess in general in college through feminism. So, you know, all the people who object to feminism are correct. It'll bring you right to goddesses. So why the heck should the divine be only a he? And the answer is, it's not. The divine is much more diverse and always has been. All human beings, regardless of their gender expression, can reflect and be reflected by a deity or deities.
Yes.
There's another deity that I work with, Dionysos, and he is quite fluid, and so are many of his devotees. But for me at the time, it was all about the goddess. She was the new thing that I was trying to figure out.
States, you're studying?
What's that?
Was that in the United States somewhere?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I asked that because sometimes spiritual beginnings, journeys, they begin when we're young. And I was just curious what area you lived in and how that shaped you.
Yeah, my family moved around the U.S. quite a bit, but I've traveled a lot within the country and some outside as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that helps with flexibility and getting a great knowledge of, how other people in different backgrounds live. So I'm all for that. So in college, were you specifically studying like say spirituality or women's studies or?
No, I was studying practical stuff like communications. Yeah, my degree is actually in communications. But through the diversity of education, which is a wonderful thing, I did some exploring around neo-paganism. I found ceremonial magic at the time, but eventually I decided that I really needed to focus on one goddess. As much as they are all wonderful, it can be also kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, how do you choose? How do you choose?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd always been attracted to Egyptian stuff.
Aha. Okay.
And of course, the first goddess that you think of when you think of Egyptian stuff, most people anyway, is Isis. But I was pretty young and rebellious at the time, and I have an Aquarius moon. And I was like, no, everybody does Isis. I must do a more obscure goddess for sure. But she just kept coming back to me, coming back, and then eventually I gave in.
Were you taking part in rituals or ceremonies in college, or did that happen after
And
you?
that was kind of after. There really wasn't that much going on when I was in college. I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah. Well, I
But
mean, college is for studying. I mean, college is for learning. I was just curious. Sometimes people kind of dabble in different types of spirituality during college, but no, not necessarily.
Mhm. Yeah, my family was Unitarian, so that also gave me a really broad perspective. One of the great things that Unitarians do is they encourage their young people to study all the different religions. So
Yeah.
it gives you a good basis for choosing one that you might like, unless you decide to be Unitarian.
Right. Right. So I mean, I think that's really helpful and to know that. And also, I'm just curious, what drove you or motivated you to write your book, ISIS Magic, which is a phenomenal, massive book that I mean, I'm just beginning to delve into. It's amazing. I encourage all my listeners to read it. So, what motivated you to start writing this book?
She did.
Yeah, I
I think very often if you love a deity and you work with them a lot, they will have a task for you. And that was one of my tasks from her. So it took me over 10 years probably to write it.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
as far as the contents of the book, I mean there's lots of information on ISIS out there, both online, and also there's a boatload of scholarly work. There is some amazing scholarly work being done on her religion, and her,
Yeah.
but mostly, those are people who are not practicing.
Right.
So what I wanted to do was collect all the information together about her that I could, plus put together something that people could do to come to find her for themselves. Because
Right.
very often, people they're like, "Ooh, I'm so attracted to Isis or whatever deity it is," and they're like, "Now what? What do I do? How do I do that? How do I contact?"
Right. How do you put it into practice? Or your
So ISIS magic is full of those kinds of stepping stones, I think. It can be a full path of initiation for you if you want, or you can take things that attract you from it and adapt it for your own work. And I probably suspect that most people are using it that way.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So as the title says, goddess of 10,000 names. I'm just curious, why does ISIS have so many names?
Well, that's a really great question, and it has a kind of interesting answer. And
Okay.
of course, with all things ISIS and all things Egyptian, as you may know if you've looked into any of it, there's never just one answer.
Right.
But let's imagine the ancient Mediterranean world.
Hmm.
Bordering that sea, you've got Greece, Rome, Egypt, Libya, Asia Minor, Persia, Judea, Phoenicia, Spain, the Baltics, the Black Sea, and so many more. And all these people are trading with each other. They trade not only goods, but they trade uh, ideas and they trade deities. So people who are worshipers of Isis brought their goddess with them when they traveled, and you'll find very often that they made shrines for her in the port cities where you would kind of expect to find um, people who were doing trading practice across the Mediterranean. And the same thing happened when Egyptians would go to other lands. They would bring their goddess with them and plant her there. Or people would come and visit Egypt and go, "Oh, she's interesting. I'll bring her home with me."
Hmm.
And they would find that they would have to explain this new goddess to their friends and family. So they might compare her to a goddess that they knew. For instance, as far back as the 5th century BCE, Herodotus, who's kind of an ancient historian, was telling his readers that Isis was the same as Demeter. And that went on over and over and over again. Scholars call it syncretism, which is bringing together different religions. And another word for it is theocracia, which is literally God mixing.
Ah,
So to some extent, that happened in the Mediterranean world with ISIS.
oh,
But even before that, that very same thing was happening within Egypt itself. And is it, I think it was Herodotus who again said, um, Isis and Osiris were the only deities that were worshipped throughout the length and breadth of Egypt. That's not true, but that was the impression that he had. So you kind of see how all these deities are coming and mixing up together.
yeah,
Um, there were hundreds of local deities within Egypt, many of them connected with Isis.
right.
And there's something that really leads us to understanding how the Egyptians thought about this. And I love this about Egyptian spirituality. It's so fluid, as deities can be joined to each other. Amun Ra is a really good example of that. It's joined the god Amun and the god Ra. They join to become something else, but they are still themselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And from the very earliest texts that we have from ancient Egypt, Isis was joined with Sopdet, who is the star goddess of Sirius and the bringer of the inundation. So from
Yeah,
the very earliest times, we have one of those syncretisms with her as well.
yeah. So, what are some of, since Isis is such an ancient deity and has been worshipped for thousands of years, what are some of her key aspects as a goddess? I know, you know, there's I've heard of the protectress, the life giver, the death bringer, regeneratrix, great mother. What are some of just really basic, like high level, like aspects that?
Mhm. Well, for Isis magic, I was trying to break it down into kind of big chunks that could be looked at in chapters.
Yeah.
So let me let me in fact do a little bit of an invocation right now.
Oh, okay.
So close your eyes
Mm-hmm.
and relax for a minute
Okay.
and see what resonates for you. The great goddess Isis is the ancient goddess throne, the original cause and place of being, and the ancient one who gives birth and rebirth to her people as they pass through her enthroning lap. She is the lady who nurtures and sustains us with the blessings of the earth, which she, as the primal place of being, is. The great goddess Isis is the one who so many of us first meet as Mother Goddess. In Egypt, she is mother of the god, Horus and Pharaoh, and she is mother of all the gods. She is motherly in her care for human beings. She is fiercely protective of Horus and Osiris, and she brings that motherly protectiveness to each of us as well. The great goddess Isis is the goddess of magic, who embodies and wields the most potent energy in the universe, the energy of magic, Heka. She is the magician who uses her magic to heal the hurts of the body and the hurts of our hearts, who creates with the thoughts of her heart and the words of her tongue. The great goddess Isis is the lady of green plants, who, when her soul rises as the star Sirius, heralds the beginning of the season of fertility. She is one whose tears of lamentation for Osiris and for us fill the rivers of the earth and causes her sacred river, the Nile, to rise. The great goddess Isis is the goddess of women, who not only protects during childbirth and marriage, but she is also Isis the feminist, who said, I did make the power of women equal to the power of men. The great goddess Isis is Isis the Black One, the lady of the underworld, keeper of the secret place, who offers us rebirth in this life and guides us in the mysteries of death and the land of the dead. And the great goddess Isis is Isis of the mysteries, lady of initiation. She is Isis Sotera, Isis the savior, who renews us, cares for our souls, and can aid us throughout the difficulties of our lives.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's ISIS has many, many aspects and has been
Did you find one that spoke to you?
well, I think of her as the Great Mother
Uh-huh.
and a regeneratrix, which means she guides us through life, death, and rebirth. And those two things is kind of what I'm focusing on, or when I work with her and do my invocation with Isis.
Mhm. That makes sense.
Um, and I mean, it's not surprising that Isis was such an important ancient deity in Egypt and many other countries and worshipped for thousands of years. But I guess my question now is, how is she relevant in the present, right here in 2022?
Mhm. Well, she is as relevant as every other goddess. They are all so important to us right now, I think, and always have been. I mean, that's one of the things about goddess. Being raised in America in the time I was raised, you didn't really get an idea that there was any feminine divine.
Right.
It was only the masculine divine.
Or Mary, that was kind of
If you were Catholic,
pivotal. Yeah.
if you're Catholic, and they had their own problems, right?
Right, right, of course.
But but she has never really left.
Yeah,
Human beings always find a way to come to their goddess, one way or another, whether they hide her in the mysteries, like Isis was hidden for hundreds of years within the mysteries of groups like alchemists and Rosicrucians. She was there. She just went underground.
hmm
And we always, to me, it seems like waves. Is there are waves of kind of goddess consciousness that come and go throughout history, really. And I feel like we've come off a high that probably was in the 90s, and
yeah,
we're sliding down the hill a little bit right now. And I hope that we're going to come back up on a high wave again pretty soon, because we do need her. We
yes,
need her compassion. We need her reality.
agreed. And that's why I do this podcast. Is it's so important because I am passionate about letting the goddess speak and how the goddess speaks in present day women who, like yourself, are actively, in actively doing work and devotion with the goddess. And so, yes, I agree. I'm 100% there.
Yeah.
And I see Isis as a really all-encompassing cosmic goddess. I mean, she's pretty much everything. I mean, from
Yeah,
what I, can gather. And
definitely is. And she's a really good one if you're kind of just taking your first steps into goddess world. She is a really um, kind presence that you can be in touch with. She will indulge you. Uh, and because she has so many different aspects, there's probably one that you will find that you like, that's kind of a doorway in for you,
yeah.
like the Great Mother for you. And for me, it was Goddess of Magic.
hmm
I've always been a fan of magic, and I love the concept of Heka as kind of the energy of the entire universe, and she is the one who wields and controls that.
Yes. Um, so, well, that leads me to my next question. In your book, I was reading there's a four stages of sacred, I guess, development, devotion to build a personal relationship with Isis. There's the votary, the handmaiden or servant, the magician, or of the house of life or with the house of life, and then the
Mhm.
prophetess or prophet. Um, what are some of the ways? What are some simple ways that are maybe our listeners who are just beginning to develop a relationship with ISIS? How? What are some of the ways that they can connect and form a
Mhm.
spiritual connection with
Well,
her?
the first thing I always recommend for folks on kind of a practical base level is reading. It's a great place to start. Read anything and everything that you can get your hands on about her. Read popular stuff, read scholarly stuff. Honestly, even the Wikipedia article online is not a bad place to start.
Right.
If you like scholarly things, I can recommend academia.edu. You can do the free version and you can find all kinds of articles on there. And then once you've stuffed your head full of information, create an altar for her, uh, or add something to your existing altar. That's a very, very simple thing that you can do. You can just sit and chant her name. A tune might come to you while you're doing that. And after a while, stop chanting and just listen. And something people are sometimes afraid of, especially if they're new, is it just my imagination? Yes and no. Don't be afraid of your imagination. That your imagination is it's the tool that you have to work with to perceive on different levels. So
Yes.
let that imagination run free. If you think you hear a voice, okay, accept it, and then you can judge it later. I mean, I'll
Hmm.
give you an example of accepting now and of judging later.
Yeah.
Is I sometimes do kind of channeled writing for
Hmm.
her,
Hmm.
and I'll do it on a computer because I can type a lot faster than I can write, and then I can't read my handwriting if I try to write. So I just type. I just keep typing whatever comes, whatever comes, whatever comes, whatever comes. I don't punctuate. I don't do anything. And then you can look at it later and go, okay, these things kind of make sense. That seems like it came out of left field, and that is a really interesting metaphor there. And that all takes practice. It takes practice to kind of know what is your stuff that's coming out of your head and stuff that's coming from somewhere else. And if you have done your invocations right and you've kind of made that connection, that somewhere else that it's coming from may indeed be her.
Right. Yeah. And that's creative, bringing that creative life force through you and into your world. I think is actually a sacred right in itself.
Hmm.
Um, so.
Another easy thing to do is making offerings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a very nice way to connect. Bring flowers, pour cool water, wine, beer. She's Egyptian, so she likes beer. But she also likes things that you've created: songs, chants, poetry, art. Uh, a friend, a new friend, I guess, contacted me the other day and had been making some art with her
Hmm.
and offered me a piece of it kind of as a thank you for the book.
Oh,
And it's beautiful. I mean, beautiful work. And so I'm very honored.
yeah.
But people do that kind of creative work all the time with their deities.
Yes. Yes. I'm personally, I write guided goddess meditations for my rituals, circle of Luna rituals, and um, she has come into my life recently, and I've just completed Goddess Isis uh, guided meditation, and
Oh, lovely.
yeah, and so that's one of the ways she has entered into my life as well.
Wonderful. How did you get started doing that?
Writing or
Uh-huh. Writing the
Oh,
meditation.
well, as a ritualist and founder of a women's moon circle, one of the things about the ritual is creating a structure, and part of the structure of our rituals is to integrate invocations and guided meditations to certain goddess as well as Luna. And so Goddess Isis came up for the lunar eclipse, and I'm actually leading an event here in Las Vegas,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, on the lunar eclipse, November 8th. So, anyway, she's inspired me, let's just say, on many levels. And with the lunar eclipse, the moon goes through all the moon phases: dark moon, new moon, full moon, and then, through its full rotation of all the phases. So, one of the key images that I resonate with Goddess Isis personally is that she is a mother, and she regenerates us and resurrects us through all our difficulty and traumas and stresses and brokenness, and pulls us together to make us whole. So anyway, that's just my
Hmm.
my
Well,
personal take on her.
I think one of the reasons she was anciently considered a savior goddess, literally, they
Yes,
use the word savior
right.
about her, is that she has been through these very human experiences with
Exactly.
both Osiris and Horus, and other all kinds of other tales.
Yes.
But
Yes.
she knows our pain.
Yes. And from what I can gather about Goddess Isis is that she's human. She has these human aspects to her as well as these beautiful, uh,
Mhm.
divine aspects. And so, to relate to a goddess, it's kind of important, I think, to know her as, as close to her human aspects as well.
Because that's where we meet. That's where we meet.
Exactly.
We have our human incarnation, and all of our tools are right here. These are
Right.
the tools we have.
Right, exactly. So, so before we end, I just wanted to quickly get our listeners to your social media or your website or blog or any of those places where our listeners can learn more about you and your offerings.
Yep, I would definitely recommend my blog. It's called Isiopolis.com, which is Isiopolis. It means City of Isis.
Okay.
And that's been doing that blog for more than 10 years.
Wow.
We actually started that blog because of an ISIS festival we were doing in 2010, and I just kept on with it. So, and it's gotten better over time. It kind of
Yeah.
sucked at the beginning. So go for the later stuff.
It's an
Excuse me.
amazing resource for on ISIS. There's just a lot there. So I
Mhm.
encourage people to go to Isidora's blog.
Yep, and you can find me on Facebook. Don't bother with Instagram. I it's all just funny cats right now. I'm trying to learn Instagram.
Okay. Um, okay, and do you have any other new books on the horizon or upcoming workshops or
Yeah,
classes?
if you want to get a copy of Isis Magic, I'd say fairly soon go ahead and order it. If you go to Isiopolis, there's a link there. But my other book, which is Offering to Isis, um, it's going to be republished by Azoth Press. And what they do is they first do kind of a fancy edition, and once that sells out, they'll do a paperback edition. And that's probably the one you want to wait for, unless you're just a
Yeah,
really crazy book collector.
yeah. Okay,
I don't have a
wonderful,
date on that, but I will definitely be putting that on the blog.
wonderful. Okay, we will look forward to that. Keep an eye on that through her blog as well. And any upcoming workshops or events?
Not right now. The last thing that we did was fall equinox, not this last year, but the year before, just as everybody was kind of coming off of COVID isolation. Our local community did a really, really gentle ISIS festival that was themed on offering to ISIS. It was just making offerings all day long and allowing people to connect back up with each other. And it was very, very lovely.
Oh, that sounds wonderful and very inspiring. Yeah, now that the world's opening up, I encourage people to get out there and make an effort to join your coven or circle or
Find your people.
yeah. The goddess needs you.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Isadora, for being on my show and talking to our listeners about your amazing book and your relationship with the goddess Isis. And I wish you well in all your future endeavors. And thanks again.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Blessed be. Bye
All
bye.
right.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you did, please consider supporting my podcast via PayPal on my PayPal me/Oracle of Luna podcast. The link is in the show notes. And also feel free to share the magic of my podcast with others. Thank you, and blessed be.